Hey everyone, welcome back to the Heroes World Quarantine podcast. I am here as always with the owners and proprietors of Heroes World. That would be both John and Andre. Say hello.
Hey guys.
Howdy, folks.
And of course, always with the resident prince of mischief, Rob Cadet.
Hey, how are you?
And our special Transformers Grand Poobah expert himself, Pat Wong. Hey, say what's up.
What's going on, guys?
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us today as we discuss part 2 of this trilogy, Transformers Earth something. It's a lot.
Earthrise.
Transformers War for Cybertron
Trilogy.
Trilogy.
Colon Earthrise.
Double semicolon.
Part 2.
Yes.
Earthrise.
AKA steaming pile of more than meets the eye.
More than meets the eye. It's more than meets the eye. So thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be talking about the show, full spoilers of the 6 episodes. So if you haven't watched it, I don't know why you're here, I guess, just to hang out with us, which we appreciate. Thank you so much. But we will be talking
heed
about
our warnings. Heed our warnings. Yes.
We're giving lots of warning. This is what's happening. So please understand that whatever we say now is full spoilers. And you probably watched the first one, so you're trying to get our perspective on the second one. So here we go. We're going to start with Rob. Give us, this is the game to you because you drew the straw.
No,
Give us.
I'm not doing it.
Yes,
You're going to
Rob.
ask me to give a summarization.
Give us an unhelpful Cole's Notes summary. So tell us what you think happened in season 2.
Impossible.
Well,
You're just kidding. I'll
Stuart,
give you a second. Yes, please carry on.
season 2 picks up pretty much right where season 1 left off.
Ooh, good.
The Autobots are sad. The Decepticons are sad.
Ugh.
There's very little
Big period.
transforming.
Uh-huh.
And this is like a bad episode of Gilmore Girls put into a blender with a stale Prozac churned up and spit out into a admittedly quite neat looking anime style of cartoon corruptional bullshit. Where nothing really happens. The Autobots are trying to get to salvation, trying to find the Allspark. Megatron still has LL Cool J's lips, and
They were toned down.
the episode it teases up the final part of the trilogy where sadness still
Looms.
First off,
About it.
First off, as a Gilmore Girls aficionado myself, I'm insulted by you. We're comparing this to Gilmore Girls. First off, if you watch the episode of Gilmore Girls, you know there's much more snappy dialogue. And
Oh man, if the dialogue in
it's
this
like-
was like Gilmore Girls, that would be amazing.
First off, Gilmore Girls adds like 70 pages of dialogue in 42 pages. Like,
No, you know
how
what?
they fit in-
My wife's a huge Gilmore Girls fan. It was the only thing that came to mind. I don't know how to summarize these 6 episodes. They may have been the long. I wanted to try to go into this with a
open mind,
open mind, enthusiasm,
open heart.
Yeah, I got nothing. I'm like John. I got nothing out of it. I don't know.
I will now pass it off to John. Do you have a helpful summary for the people at home at any shape or form?
No, other than just don't watch this shit. It's a disaster. Like who wrote like to follow up last week's podcast, I didn't think things could get worse and they did. So
Do you have anything?
This show went. This 6 episodes were pointless. It didn't need to be. It didn't. It could have been done in like 1 episode. Everything it needed to tell.
Yes.
That's the way I saw it.
What did you not like the fact that both Megatron and Optimus Prime both had their own spiritual leaders that went to them and talked to them about the future and had their
They
vision of what it
each
is?
had.
It was like their own
had an
Jedi masters
episode.
talking to them about like what the future is, and then
They each had
do
the
this.
equivalent of an anime episode where they powered up.
Yep.
That was it, and that was unnecessary.
This was like the allegory of the basically they just looked at Star Wars and be like, what can we just copy from this? It's like, let's do the whole All the Jedis come back to Coruscant. We'll do it with the arena. All Decepticons come to the arena. We're gonna have a spiritual ghost guide show up and talk to about what it means to be the Prime and what it means to have the matrix of leadership. And
I
all
got
the
baited too,
flashbacks.
because like the little when you open up Netflix, you see a little like scene of Skylinks talking to Optimus Prime, and I'm kind of like, that's kind of cool. That's
Yep.
what it was. No,
His head is the cockpit of a plane.
No, it's not. It's a cockpit of a space
You can't
shuttle
blame-
that was
you can't
retired
blame
in
the show for that.
2002.
That's just how he looks.
That's how he
Well,
looks.
that's stupid.
That's how he looks.
I'm sorry, Stu. I don't know how. I think Pat's right. There literally is no progression in this show. There is no purpose for these 6 episodes. To summarize it, I have a better time trying to find a positive spin on President Trump's last 4 years in office. And
Whoa! Well, that's
We'll talk politics, you know.
We'll talk about Transformers momentarily. I got some good stuff. Okay, Rob.
Okay,
so, so you gave us your harmful summary. I kind of have a sense of how you feel about the show.
Oh, I loved it.
I kind of got a feeling. I sensed it. I don't have to be Diana Troy to figure out, through my empathy, how you feel. Like, I sense that you are hostile about this show. Can you give us a little more into your review?
Here's you know what I was thinking of when I was watching this? I thought to myself, when I was a wee young kid in the 80s watching Transformers, I wanted those toys. I remember asking for them for Christmas. We're recording this just after New Year's, so Happy New Year's to everybody. And I remember getting the Optimus Prime and playing with it, and watching the show and having the toys helped influence my imagination in creating a world, and kind of I used the show as a blueprint to create my own battles and everything else like that. And I'm thinking as I'm watching this show, because I know that this is selling a lot of toys and whatnot, but if my kids ask for Transformers and we're basing it off of like this show, I would seriously snatch those toys away and put them into a psychiatric ward and have them talk about their feelings, because this show, it does nothing to spark, or all spark, for no pun intended, creativity or joy. It is morose. It is boring. Last time we reviewed the first part, which was, I don't remember what the hell the first part was, Siege, I think. I had said that the guy who was voicing Optimus Prime, Jake Tushy, he was essentially doing a ripoff of Peter Cullen, right? He was doing, and I sent a message to you last night, Stu, and I said, in that episode, I said, maybe, he should own it. He's got the pipes. Own the character as yourself. I don't know if he listened to me. I don't know.
Probably did. He probably
decided
did.
to re-record.
What are you talking about, Rob? I gotta talk like this all the time.
No, he actually changed his voice in a number of those episodes.
Yep.
And I said, and I watched it, I said, he should go back to mimicking Peter.
He did. I think towards the end, he reverted back. He reverted back
to Peter Cullen.
Yeah.
I was like, you've made a bad, don't listen to what I have to say then. Because you obviously haven't stopped. Everything that we've watched in the 80s, including the movie, was it 86, I think? The Transformers, the movie, the cartoon. Everything that we love about the show is gone out of this. This is, to even call it Transformers, it's only in characters. It's not in the life of what these characters represent, or the backstory. I don't know what the creators are thinking. I don't know if they're trying to make it this artsy, pseudo, serious tone. I don't know what they're doing, but it doesn't speak to me. It doesn't speak to a lot of kids. I can't imagine. My son watched maybe 15 minutes of an episode, and he looked at me and goes, I'm out of here. Like, it's not for anybody. I don't know who it's for. It's not for me. And I don't think it's for anybody who's watching this either.
I think people, I think the show is trying to show that Megatron is more than just an 80s supervillain by giving him more layers. And Optimus Prime is not just a typical leader, and he has more layers. The show's trying to emphasize that there are hard decisions to be made, and these characters have different dimensions. Optimus Prime and Megatron are friends, and Megatron is not just, he was looking out for the people, but now he got corrupted by power, so maybe he's not as bad as you think he is. And
he was a hero that fell, right? Kind of
so again, it's they're trying to make these more three-dimensional characters as opposed to the 80s, which
failed.
we loved, but it was basically like, I need this energon, and that's all the episode was about. Like, I need more energon. Starscream, get me the energon, and then
they were fun. Yeah, sure. But as basic as those were, yeah, okay, we're looking for energon. We need to power up. We need to take over. But at least they were fun.
Yeah.
At least it was something. Even watching them now, like a lot of shows from those days don't hold up. Anybody watches Knight Rider as of late, you're like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah.
But at least there's moments of fun. Those cartoons are fun. This is nothing.
Yeah.
This is not fun.
All right. We're going to move over to John. Give us your thoughts, John. John was our hurricane early warning system in our group chat for people at home. He signaled the alert to everyone. I watched it early on New Year's Day immediately, and I watched him like, oh boy, this is gonna be fun to talk about. But Rob did not heed the warnings from John. But John, give us your thoughts on the show.
I think me and Pat kind of like figured it out exactly what it is. It's kind of like it would work maybe as a comic book where you don't have to like watch these things unfold. You could quickly read them. And it's almost like because Rooster Teeth made their mark with red versus blue, right? Using Halo in-game graphics. So it's almost like this is opposite. This is like a scrapped video game, and they took all the cutscenes and tried to stitch it together in a movie. So that's why you don't really get any of the action. Like they come across Scorponok, who's a big boss, and it kind of like plays you a cutscene where you see Scorponok come up, and then they kind of fight him, but not really. And then they kind of come back. So it's almost like it's missing that element where you're in the game playing. Like, so a lot of people are demanding you bring back I think War for Cybertron was the video game series. It was a first person shooter and people really liked it. So it's almost like this was left over from that, or it was from a new game that was coming out, and they're like, we got to salvage this somehow. That's why you don't transform, that's why you don't have action, and it's like it's missing like this extra layer of something that would make it watchable. So like it's almost like it should have been an interactive like Minecraft Netflix event where you get to pick, oh, Optimus goes on the mission to save this, go this way. Oh, you want to follow Megatron, do this, go this way. So it just feels like it's just undercooked or something like that. But like there were some elements that I did like. I did like the idea of the mercenary faction. That was kind of cool. And they had a whole different symbol. And then the space bridge idea was kind of neat, but like they called too many things space. It was a space bridge, and then there's a space port stuck in it. They were in space, and then I guess the thing was halfway stuck, so they had to. Their plan was to shear it in half, right, so that they could now get their spaceship through the space port. So
space bridge.
I thought it was a neat gimmick. And in a video game, it would have worked. It would have been like, oh, we got to get this thing out of the way. Pick your guys and send them in on the mission and plant these explosives and they get out. Like, where are they getting all these explosives, first of all? And why aren't they using them? Because blasters are woefully ineffective in this series, except if you're shooting, randomly shooting the good guys and they just die from one hit. Like, I just don't like, I don't know, like that. I think it's so much.
To be fair, John, like lots of times when you're building alloys for ships and stuff, it's stronger than what you build for other things. So maybe the Transformers alloy, the metal they use are not blaster proof as opposed to a spaceship, which is. But here's the thing. I wonder, it's like, well, most for human beings, you're concerned about space, the vacuum of space, and they need to breathe. But the Transformers don't need to breathe. So what's the matter? Yeah. Like, what does it matter?
That's when they get sucked out, you're like, okay, they're fine.
They're just now in space for a while. Like, it's, they're just floating around. So like, I just sit there going, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. Okay, that was a very helpful little synopsis there. Pat, as John has already stolen half your thunder. What are your,
he can talk about how they were supposed to be humans, but they're Transformers.
As John has now delivered your homework and put his name on it. So thank you. This is a group exercise, and John just took away your work. But go for it, Pat.
I had this thought about the first 6 episodes, and I remember saying it, and you guys made fun of me for saying it. And I said the show was either too long or too short. And I remember everybody beat me up for saying it was already too long. But the problem with this show is that it was done in an anime style. So there's a lot of parts of it that doesn't feel complete.
Yeah.
Like near the end, there was this one scene where Cog, like where he dies, right?
Yep.
He messages the ship and he's like, "Oh, you know what? If you guys hear me, I'm on the mercenary ship.
Yep.
Don't shoot." And it's implied that he dies, but it's supposed to be some kind of heroic death.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't know anything about it. So how would it matter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So the reason why I said it might have been okay if it was a little longer is that if it was a little longer and it was done straight and kind of like an anime style, you have all these filler episodes, and then there may be an episode talking about, like in the first series, if there was an episode talking about Ultra Magnus's past, when he dies, you would be like, oh, you know what? I have a little bit of emotional attachment to this video, right? Or in this episode, if they had an episode about, about Cog and some of the little guys, when he dies, you're kind of like, oh, he mattered, right? And I was talking to John about this, because even when you're watching stuff, when you're watching a bunch of like Japanese anime shows like the Gundams or whatever, right? Those nameless pilots that are like third or fifth in the chain of command, they still spend an episode or two talking about them. So when they eventually die, you're kind of like, oh, you know what? I know something about him. I have a little bit of attachment. But poor Cog, he was knocked into space. He didn't die. Showed up on the other ship, shot the dude in the face, and then died. And you're kind of like, okay, what is the purpose of that?
To be fair, Pat, that's a very 24 move. That's like pure 24 season 1 or season 2, where like the guy shows up. I remember one episode where Lou Diamond Phillips showed up for like 20 minutes in the first episode, immediately died. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Lou Diamond Phillips.
He lasted 2 episodes. That was season 1 near the end.
but yeah, I think to your point, Pat, you're right. But I think they ultimately do us a favor, because we have to conclude this all trilogy into one season. Like in my mind, I just think this is part of a full season. They just branded it as separate parts because they're doing us a favor. Because if we had to sit through 12 episodes in a row of this stuff, I don't think we'd do it. I don't think we'd survive. So
we wouldn't, but maybe the actual like hardcore fans would appreciate it. Like 20 something episodes at maybe 15 minutes a pop or whatever.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And I think
with more characters,
they don't feel 22 minutes. This is the problem. Right?
The problem is every one of these episodes is like 24 to 26 minutes.
Yeah.
And whoever's writing it or doing it, the pacing is so off that you could be watching this in the middle of the day and you want to fall asleep.
Yes.
It's boring. It's boring. And I don't understand how these guys claim to like Transformers. At no point did these guys transform at any moment where it would have helped them. It's like, hey guys, we're tired, we're low on energy. Can we keep walking? I think this was like the second episode. And what's her name? Alita One's like, oh, don't worry, we're almost there. Half of you are cars. Transform and put the weak ass Decepticons that you just rescued on your backs.
She transforms like once towards the end.
It's like the only budget they had to transform was they're like, that whoever made this show is like, yo, Jetfire was my favorite Transformer and I never got him as a kid. So when I make this show, Jetfire is going to do all the cool shit. And again, he's flying, he transforms, cuts somebody in half and goes. I'm like, yeah, just call this the Jetfire show. Nobody else did anything. It's and like Rob said, this show, who's it for? It's so dark and depressing. Like Megatron goes to that section 12 and talks to these guys, and they're all like, oh, Megatron, it's so good that you come to the little people, blah, blah. And then he's like, shut them down. I'm like, just freaking steals their sparks and stuff. First of all, I don't know if as a young kid, if they're watching it, they'd understand what's going on if they're 8 or 9. If I was 10 or 12 watching this, like I don't know how it's selling toys because they're not doing anything cool in this show to make me go, yo, I want that toy. I know I'm all over the place, but it's so bad. Like,
okay, one second, Andre. One second, Andre. You're stealing Pat's time because you just went on a whole. I didn't let Pat finish, so Pat, finish.
I think Pat was done.
Well,
nonetheless, I want to give Pat because Pat may have some final thoughts before Andre went full Andre. So
at the end of the day, I felt like this show was written as if the cast were people. The things they did, they were written as people. There was one scene where they were sneaking around. You're a 40-foot tall machine. What are you sneaking around for? right? And I think that was one of the problems. It was written as if it was like an anime.
Pat's like, what are they doing? And I'm like, they're sneaking. They're Metal Gear Solid Transformers.
Right. And then there was one scene where Jetfire like trips or something, and he's like kind of face first against the window. You're kind of like, why? You're a giant robot. How would you trip? What? Was it a banana peel? No, it just doesn't make sense.
It also doesn't make sense because if they have better hearing, wouldn't metal just clanking across?
Clank. Yes.
Like, wouldn't it be better to drive with plastic or like rubber wheels or hover
or fly
or float?
Right.
Or
but that's what I'm saying. Like, it was written as if if the main cast on that team, if Alita 1 and Jetfire and Red Alert, if they weren't robots and they were just like, the cast
humans,
of
the humans. Yeah,
they were humans. It would make a lot more sense, but they're not. And Jay was talking about how you couldn't sell the toys and stuff. But the problem, and I think the problem of doing like a trilogy or like a prequel with the Transformers is that they really don't have a reason to transform yet.
Yep.
They're not blending in anywhere.
Yep.
What's the purpose of transforming? Like, why do they even have car modes if you think about it? Why do they even have jet modes? Right? They wouldn't need them until they kind of got to Earth, right? But here we are.
But this is not This Is Us. This is the problem, right?
It is.
It's not This Is Us because
that would make a way better show.
and I think Pat brought up a really good point about Rooster Teeth because their big claim to fame was Ruby, right? Like that was their thing, and they took in aspects of anime and then they made a show. And it was kind of like the success of they piggybacked off of Avatar, which is like, oh, we can do an anime style thing, North American, and we can take some of the concepts and North Americanize it and then sell the show. And that's what Ruby is. It's not an anime. It's a North American show that looks like
done anime style.
Cartoon. And Ruby, and Andre mentioned before, Ruby's not good, but it fits, a group of people that want that art, but North American sentimentality. So that's maybe the feel of this. My question to you, Pat, before we go to Andre, was that, did they explain, like, as the Transformers aficionado, does it cost energy to transform? Like, is it like that? Is that a thing? Like, is there like some sort of
like Spawn?
Like, yeah, like, is there a nectoplasm? Like, can they do it so many times? Like, how can you just, like, when you transform, does it waste, like, the spark or energy? Like how much work does it take to transform into something? Is that the reason why they don't do
not very much. It might take energy to fly. It might take energy to walk. It might take energy to release grenades, I guess. Yeah. Right? But
so
I don't know.
So then that's on that. Okay. So then the
They're
next
fully loaded
is,
weapons.
So sparks are just energy, or is that souls? Because I wasn't clear. Is sparks also the soul also energizes them? Because once the spark is gone, like, can't you just, like, if a transformer spark is gone, couldn't you just add new energy to it and it restart? Like, what's between energy and like energon that they eat in purple form compared to spark? Like, what
is energy? Don't think about it. Don't think about it. All
because
right?
because like
I think I have seen something where they're like, we don't have enough energy to even transform anymore. I don't remember if it was a kid's show or one of the other movies or something like that. But I think I think I have heard a Transformer say that before.
Why did you put air quotes overheard? Did you hear it or did you not hear it?
Because my only thing was that to Andre's point is like, I'm trying to look at watching the show and I'm like, maybe they're only transformed because the spark is what's required to transform. And if they can't,
they're dumb.
they don't do it. Or half of them are broken and they can't transform because they're missing.
If they were all missing legs, then yeah, you don't have that transformation.
Listen, when Optimus Prime,
to be fair, Rob, we've all had that transformer that's broken and you couldn't transform it properly because you're like, oh, maybe that's it. Maybe the arm broke and now it doesn't fit the right way. You're like, well, that's that. This transformer's jank.
Yeah.
So like that's the thing.
Listen, when Optimus Prime's like he only has a few choice phrases, and when one of them is roll out, you should do that.
No,
well, to be fair, they're
like, let's walk it out.
Walk it off as if he like sprained his ankle. Walk it off.
Fair, Rob, it's kind of like the Avengers where they don't want to say Avengers Assemble. They want to wait for the moment, the real moment.
But he has said it though. Optimus has said. He said it in the first series in Siege. He
said it in this one too, and
then they just ran.
And no, but they literally didn't do it. They're like, Prime's buying us time, and then they turned around and attacked the Scorponok again. And you're like, what the hell? Like,
okay.
like worst leader ever. Nobody listens to him. Like it's
Oh
just,
yeah. That's established in season 1 that he can't fight and he's not a leader, which was one of our gripes, Andre. But yeah, Andre. Now that Pat's got some of his thoughts out, you went on to what else you got for us outside of the basics?
I just like I think we've all touched on it, in parts, but like, first of all, like again, is this selling toys? I don't think it is. I think the people already have the toys and they're seeing their toys animated. That's it. Because I'm watching this show and I don't want to buy any of these toys based on what the characters I'm seeing. The situations in the show, again, like Rob said, and we all agree, they're not fun. There's no comedy in it. There's no bright, anything, not even like there wasn't even a cool battle scene. Like I'm like, oh, cool, that's Scorponok, and it didn't do anything. Like I'm like, really? Optimus Prime punched him in the head and he fell down a trap and then he came back up.
Andre, it did give us a 5-minute soliloquy. It's like it explained its motivation, its fears, who its master was. Like it was a Doctor Strange, like, who is your master and who do you serve? It's like, well, my master is the Quintessons and I serve them. And you guys, I'm like, what is going? Just fight people.
Yeah, see, we didn't even touch on the Quintessons. Like they just blew past that. They blew past the mercenary faction until the end, right? So I don't know. Like I think that
so it could have been longer.
It needed, you know what? No, I think Pat's got a point. I think instead of 24 to 26-minute episodes, they needed to be the regular cartoon length, so 20 minutes top.
22, yeah.
And then space them out, maybe make each season 10 episodes, but add those action fillers. Because no, Rob, think about it. The reason this is so bad is because the pacing is so off and they didn't put action in. It's like they didn't have an animation budget to animate robots fighting. Yeah, and that's what we're there for, right? We want to see cool stuff.
But even if you threw in a whole bunch of action scenes to expand the pacing of this show, you still have a problem with the talkie. Do you know what I'm saying? But you're not going to get
talkie. But if you put in more action and you it would force you to rewrite it or change it. But I do like what Pat and John said, like the thing about the humans, because the first thing I noticed I think it was the first episode, it's like they opened up when they're on Cybertron, they opened up like a cell, and Red Alert busts out a flashlight and he's holding a flashlight, and I'm like, why does a robot have a flashlight? and then they all have iPads.
Yeah.
They all get this Autobot iPad and they're like, well, let's read this thing.
Yeah.
And then the best one was Bumblebee. Prime, for some reason, is riding on top of the Ark outside. And Bumblebee's like, they need you in the bridge. Why did you have to go and tell them? Then the next episode, all of them have their screens come up and they're like, yes, okay, Wheeljack, do this. But I'm like, guys, again, my phrase for this year is going to be the people should be ashamed of this. The people who wrote this should be ashamed of how bad it's written and how unimaginative they made this world. Like, they're not people, they're robots. So have all of them have communication. Have them press his ear like they do in Gears of War in any video game where they need to listen. But don't have one dude walk up and tell me you're needed on the bridge when you're a robot. Why does the gladiatory place, the
robot secretary?
Yeah. Why does the Coliseum have actual flags?
Yeah.
Where are they getting
flags from? Back.
Again, why not have it digitally? They were so lazy they couldn't even animate like a digital flickering that we see. Like,
you're right, Andre. There's no organics on the planet. So how do they make cloth?
Yeah,
where do they get cloth from? Like, there's the robots. Cybertron, if you see behind me, is a husk of metal.
Yeah,
where do they get natural resources? Like, wait, you wouldn't be able to natural fiber.
Ultra Magnus had a cloak in the first season.
Where did he get the cloak from?
But I think he was actually producing it, and he had a stall set up in the local mall. And there he was selling flags and cloaks. And
this was so it was supposed to be that Jedi moment where he had the thing in the hood and he's like, oh, Ultra Magnus the Wise, and he went there, and then
no one will know it's me if I put a cloak on and not use their radar.
Don't mind these big giant shoulders.
Should have been sheet metal.
And then here's the thing: I got that moment. Andre, sorry to cut you off. That nice moment where he's like, I thought it was going to be a good payoff where Megatron was talking to that head, and you're like, oh, it's Ultra Magnus. He's just like losing his mind. He's like, don't judge me, and he's just Ultra Magnus's head there, and you're like, oh, this is really weird. Like he's having a Wilson moment, but then never goes back to it again.
Yeah.
It's like the moment where like, oh, he's losing his mind, like something's going on, and he's like, no, never mind. Let's just the head was there. That's it. We're gonna continue on.
See, if they had an episode or 15 minutes talking about Megatron's like regretting shooting Ultra Magnus, then that might have been like a little more.
Or like the Ultra Magnus like ghost who's like haunting him and taunting him about like it's just like at least have a dialogue. Like you could pay someone just to talk. Like it's not like you have to animate that mouth moving. It's like you just like if it's
they had that one scene with Megatron, Optimus, and Ultra Magnus.
Yes!
And it was like they were the brothers to become primes or something like that. We were like, oh, that's kind of cool. But that was it. They literally just pan past and like, okay, sorry, that's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
Wait, but then so I want to ask a quick question. Sorry, Andre. Oh yes, finish. Do you have anything else before
No,
I
I think that's it. And I would say my biggest gripe for me from watching this was the scene in I think episode 4 where Optimus and Megatron have this whole I need you and you need me moment where Prime's like, oh, you needed me to be the villain because that's how you got to power. But I'm like, they just ruining characters. Like why do they have to go there? Like, you know what I mean? I was just like, fine, you want to create empathy, whatever. And then what was with Megatron bleeding? Like, I was just at that moment, I was just like, wow, these guys, like,
can we
listen? I know everybody wants to put their own interpretation on things they love. Like, heck, I would come up with an interpretation of the things I love too. Like, I've been a fan of, you know, comic books and characters and Transformers and He-Man and G.I. Joe. But I would think that if I was to add a layer to something, I would have made it more thought out than that. Like they basically make this pact that like, oh, we're going to get the Allspark and then we're going to go back and then we're going to go our separate ways. Go your separate ways. What? You both were responsible for effing up Cybertron.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you make a pact like that? Like at that point, it should have been, okay, we're all one. Like once we do this, once we save the Allspark, we are going to unite again. There's no need for this fighting. Nope, we're just gonna go our separate ways. I'm like, oh my god, this ridiculous.
Can we all agree that of this season? And I was gonna ask who's the best character, but can we all agree it's just Alita 1? She's the only one that actually has a perspective where she's like, Autobots or not, we save robots. Like she's the only one that has logic behind her, even though she's on the planet. She's the best character of all of them.
She was, but she also had her prime moments where again, Jetfire's like, do you think we should do this? And she's like, I don't know, but it's what we're gonna do. And every
but I don't mind that. I think that's
but some of it was just she was as one track minded as Prime. She's like, oh, we just got to go and save these people. Oh, we got to go. No, let's not test this intel. Let's just go and get trapped and all this stuff. So again, she was the best character, but they wrote her just as they wrote Prime.
But in the fact of like, if I had to choose between her, Optimus Prime, and Megatron, I'm choosing her. At least she has a perspective that I'm like, oh, she talked it out. Her logic is sound. Like it's wrong. She's altruistic, but at least I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Like she's doing a thing on Cybertron.
Pat, does she have a cool figure?
Netflix exclusive. It's a retool of like a RC.
Oh, boo!
It's a Walmart exclusive. That's part of the Netflix line.
So
nonetheless, the one thing that kind of, I guess, I think I wanted to, even though I got the heads up from only one of the people on the panel that this was crap, Stu. The one thing I kind of thought is that at the end of the first season, it looked like they were going to Earth, and I think I had said, well, at least they'll be on Earth, and that will right. And when you call it Earthrise, you kind of think, okay, well, at least we've gotten rid of the dark, dank, weird, you know, you're not on Cybertron, and you still have some obviously who are on Cybertron, but you thought that the main characters like Prime and Bumblebee and all that were going to crash on Earth. And that didn't happen. So as Pat said, what was the point of this entire, like you're bridging the, the season 1 and season 3, which it looks maybe now they will get to Earth. But what was the point of this? Like you really should have, if we're talking about pacing, they should have hit Earth. And then you've got the two different storylines, one on Earth and one on Cybertron.
Basically, past 12 episodes was the very, very first episode of like the 84 cartoon.
Yeah, and it was done in 3 seconds. It's like they got on the ship, they flew to Earth, it was done. Nonetheless, who is out? My thing was Alita, but does anyone have another Transformers character this season that they would say is
I like Chromia.
Sorry?
Oh, the mercenary, yeah. The mercenaries didn't do anything. Double Dealy, the mercenary.
I mean, got owned, but yeah.
The mercs are cool, except for the fact that if you think about it, why do they need money? Which is the same problem when you try to humanize them.
Yeah.
What are you getting paid for?
Yeah.
Pay me.
Well, I think they wanted Energon, right? Isn't they got paid Energon?
No, it was credits. Remember,
they don't say.
Bumblebee's a scavenger. He scavenges stuff to sell.
But remember, the universe is large. Maybe credits can get you Energon on different planets because they're not on, and they're kind of flying on their own.
If it was Energon, they should have just said Energon. So give me my Energon. And then your problem is solved.
Maybe the credits could buy them ships and other things. Like
maybe he might have wanted to get paid in Energon, but I wasn't listening.
It's the same thing. The same logic applies to Star Trek. Why does anyone need any credits when you're part of the Federation? But yet they're at Quarks playing Dabu for Gold Plus Platinum. So I just let that slide. Let's just let that slide. Even Star Wars, like, don't the Jedis get paid? Like, don't question how the whole thing works as well, because I'm sure there's space credits and no one addresses it in either Star Wars or Star Trek.
If that is the case, I think the mercenaries are cool.
Okay, yes. Okay. Andre, Rob, cool. Or do you disagree? Alita 1, or before we jump?
I think you're right. Alita 1, like for characters, but I still think Jetfire had the coolest moments.
Yeah.
He was the only one who transformed more than once in an episode.
Yeah,
fired all those missiles again.
Yeah, sure. I'll go with Lita 1. I don't give a shit.
Okay, we're at the worst character. Rob, who's the worst?
Honestly, for me, it was Soundwave. Like, I was a huge Soundwave fan, and Soundwave had that. Shut up, Pat. Soundwave had that, the voice modulator and everything else. And then this one, he sounded like he was 3 steps away from Screech from Saved by the Bell. I was like, what the hell? Well, Soundwave.
Andre?
I don't think any of the characters were particularly good, but I'm going to take from Rob, I'm going to take that how they sounded and what threw me off. And Ironhide's voice when he was in the Ark and he just sounded like a normal dude. I'm like, that's Ironhide.
Yeah, it's like you're right.
So not that he was bad, but I was just like, wow. They didn't even do their research. He's always sounded like that, but Prime, like that low, rough voice. He's Ironhide,
like he sounds like he works in a ranch. Like that's the thing. Like he's the guy that's like from Wyoming is like, I'm here to help Prime. It's like he had that colloquialism that is something that you're missing. And that's, I think, what you said, Andre, it's perfect. It humanized them, but the voices humanized them. They didn't have to be humans by walking around. It was just the voices made them sound and act human. And you didn't need them to walk around and sipping coffee and tea with a finger up to say that I'm a human. I'm a sentient being. The voices, the richness of it, just like Catman Scruthers with Jazz, like those are the characters you remember because their voices, they sounded like people.
What does he say in the movie? He's like, every time I look in a monitor, my circuit sizzle. Yeah, some funny shit like that. But nothing like that in this one, man.
No, and that's the thing, because you can imagine the guy reading this dial is, I'm on what type of show? Like, what is this?
But it's an interesting point you just brought up, because the people who are actually voicing the characters, these are not, now this has come under fire. They're not union actors or union voiceover artists. And so actually, while we were just talking, I was looking to see if any of the other, because if the writers of the show are union members or not, because it is that has been an issue. And generally in Hollywood, if you're producing stuff with non-union members, other unions won't support the show, like the Writers Guild of America. So I was just trying to find, and I haven't really seen anything. I don't actually believe that some of these writers are part of the WGA. So
just to cut down costs, because again,
maybe that's a part of the issue as well.
100%. Like, again, if you do it non-unionized, it's a cheaper rate. And that's probably why the show is out there, because it probably costs them nothing. It's like 1/3 of the price of a regular show, because it's like the animation cost is the most expensive thing, but like the writing and the voice actors cost nothing. So it's like, well, we can make the show, put it on Netflix forever, and we're good. It doesn't have to be the caliber of The Mandalorian or any of the Star Wars shows, because who cares? Let's get the content forever on Netflix, and it'll be cheap to produce. Like I tell you right now, probably one episode of Mandalorian is probably the entire budget for the entire season of this show.
Oh, way more. No, for sure. One episode of Mandalorian, probably they could get 10 seasons of this.
That scene of Yoda, or a baby Yoda on the stone with the that scene in of itself is a budget of this entire series.
John, who is the worst character?
I'm gonna go with Optimus Prime again.
Yeah.
He's the worst. Like, why would you follow this guy in a battle? And if he talked like the way that he did in the show, in person, you'd be like, dude, why are you straining your voice so much? Talk like a normal robot. You know, I'll leave Wheeljack's funky accent for Pat, but
Pat.
Like, Optimus Prime is the worst.
Can I also say Optimus Prime?
Yeah.
Or is that off the table?
No, that's fine.
Like Optimus Prime was just I actually thought the show was going to be about Bumblebee, but Bumblebee was a non-issue in the season.
We got Dark Bumblebee. We got
Imposter Bumblebee.
We got an imposter. We got all the imposter Transformers.
And you know what's funny?
Yep.
If you don't know the show, they never really said what these characters' names were or what this mercenary faction was, because I'm watching it and I'm like, how did Dirge and Thundercracker, I can't remember. How did Dirge get on the Ark? And then I look and I'm like, his colors are off, and it's not because of the shadows. And then I saw the thing and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know this guy's name or whatever, but I know that symbol from the toys we carry. But again, they do a piss poor job of explaining if new people were going to come to the show, or if you were watching it with your kids be like, mommy, why is Bumblebee silver instead of yellow? Mom would be like, I don't know, I'm watching it with you, and they didn't explain, you know, like. And
especially I can imagine as a retailer, the person walks in, it's like, do you have the Bumblebee that's not the Bumblebee that's a different color? And you'd be like, what? Like, imagine the kid going to the store to ask like what the toy they want. It's like, I want this one but the different color. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I want silver Bumblebee. Pat's with checking
if he has the figure.
It was one of those things where I appreciated the fact that they had a cheapness of the budget where they use the same robots over and over, but I figured on Cybertron
it kind of made sense.
Why would they make like new,
there could be like 100 Honda Civics?
Yeah, like
they'd all be the same model. Yeah, just different colors.
To me, the logic makes sense. I actually don't give the gripe for that. I'm like, if they all look the same, they'll all look the same, because again, to John's point, they would all be the same model. There should be like 100 like Optimus Prime. So
there was a sideswipe that was like orange and green who looked like fire, and like he never showed up again. I was like, oh, that color scheme's cool, and never showed up again. Like, Pat's got bug bite. He's got bug bite. Yeah. So it exists, dude.
Bug bite, and he's an exclusive, I bet.
He's one of these cardboard boxes.
Yeah, of course. Of
course. So, like, I think we talked quickly about it. This is the question I asked last time we did this pod: is the best Transformers ever? Clearly, we can all agree this is not even close. So I'm not going to bother going into much detail. I think from a simple yes or no, is this worse than season 1 or part 1, Pat?
I thought about it, slept on it. Yes, it's worse.
Andre, worse or better than?
I think it's better than the first part because you know what to expect the first time.
Okay. Rob?
No, this is shit. It's not better than the first.
I think it's worse. Yeah, I think the first one has at least some better action sequences. And we should shout out the Mashima Combiner Wars. That was only a 6 or 7 minute show. It must have had like way lower budget. So like Andre said, if you just doubled the length of that, even 15-minute show, and they just went all out action, basically, they should have just done that.
Okay, so last final question before we wrap it up, as always. Does this show make you want to buy the toys? Pat, this is directed at you.
Already
bought
them.
You bought them all.
It's kind of irrelevant because it's too late. The toys are already out. Like the Earthrise figures, they're like, I don't know what's going on with their schedule, but the Earthrise toys were out when the original first season aired.
Siege came
so
out.
Siege toys were out like a year or so before that. So they're like way behind the ball on this. So I don't know why this didn't get scrapped or cut down or something. It's so bizarre.
Okay.
So John and I discussed this once, and we were talking about how the entire timing of the entire Transformers franchise and everything under the Siege design was just mistimed. Because a couple of year and a half ago or something like that, if this show came out a year and a half ago alongside the Siege toys and the Transformers card game, then it would have been a little different. But right now, when the toys came out, it just kind of showed up. The people who were kind of into the 80s stuff bought it all up because it looked cool, not knowing that the show was crap.
Yep.
right? And then
Yeah.
the game,
Not knowing that the show was coming out.
yeah.
Okay.
So everything just seemed like it was off sync.
Yeah, I think Joey had the same points in the first review as well. So let's wrap this up because I think all of us want to like the show, get it over with. Needless to say, it was quite an interesting experience. I valued my time on Cybertron and I never want to go back. John, Andre, where can they
But you don't
find?
have to worry about it. We're on Earth now.
And then I
Maybe.
can't wait till part 3, baby. Finish the trilogy. They're on Earth. Dinobot time. Anyways, Andre, Pat, where can they find you guys online?
Yeah, on social. Pat,
I'm still not on Twitter
around.
or Instagram.
Okay. Well, John and Andre, let's start with you first. Yes.
Yeah, Heroes World Online and social media. On the Instagram, Facebook is our most active social media, so definitely hit us up there if you need anything. We're posting pictures all the time. Even on the website is also Heroes World Online, and then the audio version, you look up Heroes World Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, everything like that.
Andre?
Yeah, definitely check us out on all our social medias, especially the Facebook is our most popular, but it's also linked to the Instagram, as John mentioned. Comment, like, ask questions if there's any product you're looking for, so that we can help. During the month of January, we are doing curbside, so we do have reduced hours, but hit us up for the email and stuff. We're going to try and be in store at least twice a week for pickup, so we'll try and arrange and coordinate that way. And it's going to be kind of like a well-deserved break because, you know, the last 10 months have been really stressful on, I'm going to speak for myself, but I can imagine on John too. So this January, we get a little bit of time to kind of unwind our brain. So that's why the twice a week thing's happening.
So again, always support your local store, support local. That's really important. Not the big boxes, not Amazon. Support John and Andre, local small businesses as much as possible. They need your help more than you could imagine. Even any small purchase is super helpful compared to, you know, going to the Costco's and the Walmarts and whatnot. So please do that. Help out. Even if not John, Andre, go to your local store. Do what you can. This is going to be a little longer than we expected, but you know, let's all get through this together. Rob, your thoughts? Where can we find you before we close this out?
Yeah, on Instagram and Twitter at Rob Gadet. You can also listen to John and I do the Heroes World Sidekick Show. Is this going up on Sunday? Are we dropping this today, Stu, or later?
We don't know.
Okay.
Maybe.
So, anyways, depending on when this goes up, if it's Sunday, tune in live tomorrow. John and I at 8:00 on Facebook or on YouTube. We are discussing a new bracket. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. And if it's after Monday, then go back and give us a listen on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast.
Pat is not on social media, but you could when in the store you could see him, but maybe he'll comment on other things. So
thank you, Pat. Open toy at the store sometimes.
Yeah.
Thank
you, Pat, for joining us. We appreciate your perspective on Transformers and all the Transformers behind you. Be safe, everyone, and we will see you all shortly on the next pod. Ba weep grana weep mini bond. See you later.
They should have used that. They had that spiral ship in the background and on the Quintesson world. They didn't even do it.
Nope. Yeah. Anyways, all right.
Yeah,
see you guys
we didn't
later.
talk about that.